Have you thought about getting your degree and then life got in the way? Maybe your plans got derailed for getting that master's or that PhD, and you decided it's too late now. Well, I think you are going to love today's episode with Dr. Phil Mary, who got his PhD at age 69. We're going to talk about why he doesn't think about age, his views on work, and how he's going to give back. Hello, dreamers. Welcome to the Late Starters Club, giving you the inspiration, mindset, and tools you need to start something midlife and beyond. Remember, it's never too late to follow your dreams. Welcome, late starters. I'm your host, Andrea Vall, and I am so excited to have on my show Dr. Phil Mary. I actually, I met Dr. Yeah, I'm so excited. I met Dr. Phil in about 7 or 8 years ago. We were just trying to figure out in Singapore when I was speaking at an event there. He is amazing. He has had a 42-year career. He's spoken in 63 countries, right? 63 different countries. He talks about leadership, synchronicity, team leadership. He's a coach, facilitator. He's written several books, contributed to books, and most exciting is he just recently got his PhD at the age of, what was it, 71? Is that when you got it?
69 when I actually
69.
got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got your PhD. That's wonderful. So welcome, Dr. Phil.
Welcome. Very nice to be here. What I like is, this is a sharing of what I think got me to where I am now, and doing a PhD later in life, which I've never talked about before. So
Yep.
it's an honor to be here on this great show. I love the title of the show.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I love some of the things you were sharing before. So I'm excited for this interview. So let's start with my question I ask all my guests is, if you could sum up or describe yourself in one sentence, what would that be?
Well, I thought a lot about this, and then I just went intuitively. My answer is, you've heard of the phrase "rebel without a cause," the great James Dean movie. Well, I describe myself as a rebel with a cause. And my cause is helping people connect with the miraculous. And so, connecting with the miraculous in my life, I don't do anything work with other people that I haven't done myself. So, rebel with a cause, and the cause is helping you understand where the miraculous is in your life and how to find it.
I love that. I just literally got chills from that. That's so great. So great. Awesome. Well, why don't you talk a little bit? I'm kind of rearranging the questions a little bit, but why don't you tell us a little bit about why you started this endeavor and what caused you to go back and get your PhD, at this stage? What drew you to that?
Well, the interesting thing, I've been in team development, and I've worked all over the world, but I always follow what comes to me in my life to take me deeper and learn more stuff for me. Because if I understand what I'm talking about and how it affects me, I'm going to be a lot more effective in helping other people. Now, the strange thing was that I thought, I want a PhD. But I put it on hold. So in, I think, 1991, I applied for a PhD, was accepted, but then didn't take it up because I was busy building the business and working and doing all sorts of stuff. And then what happened to me was that, what year would this be? Around about 10, 15 years ago, I began to notice this notion of synchronicity, meaning stuff that somehow you wanted and needed came your way out of the blue. And it happened to me so many times. And I thought, what the heck is all that about? And then I talked to other people. They also were interested and had synchronicity happen to them. And so I said, you know something? This is my PhD. And so in 2008, when I would be gosh, how old was I in 2008? My maths has gone from my head, but I'm 72 now, which is, so in 2008, I would have been like, what, 63, 64?
I can't do math
Something
this
like that.
early. I don't know.
In 2008, I went with vigor to say, let's get to the bottom of this synchronicity stuff. Now, the interesting thing for me, I don't really think about age, Andrea. So I got responses from people which surprised me because they said, wow, you're 65 and you're starting a PhD, as if this was an issue. And it just never occurred to me. And so literally, we're so lucky in so many ways with the PhD. I got David Cooperrider. I don't know if you know David Cooperrider, #1 organizational development guru in the world. He masterminded and invented appreciative inquiry. I got him to be, he offered to be my supervisor, and I had such a wonderful time. And what I found was when I did my synchronicity and leadership PhD at Tilburg University in the Netherlands, I became the first person in the world to have a grounded theory PhD in synchronicity and leadership. And so I kind of, I guess, I like breaking new territory. But the interesting thing for me, all the way through this, I've never thought about age.
Mhm.
I actually it took me 10 years to get the PhD because the first university didn't work out. And I got my master's from them, and then I actually switched university. So it took me longer than it would otherwise have done. But I
Wow.
never thought about giving up. I never thought about I'm too old, because age doesn't really figure too much in how I approach whatever I want to do. I'm going to be 73 in December. And for me, I've got the best work in my life still to come. And I'm very comfortable with that. Does that
That's
kind of make sense,
wonderful.
Andrea?
That is wonderful. I love that idea because I think there are people who think about retirement and coasting and just not, I think it's important to still kind of think about what you have to offer and give and how you serve the world and people around you. And
And
I love that.
I think that's just such an important lesson for everybody. I mean, think about it. By the time you're 65, you've had fantastic experiences which have made you very wise. So at the age of 65 or thereabouts, you're ready to do your best work. I was in a coaching session the other day, and this guy said, I'm 42 years old now, so I'm now thinking about retirement. And I thought, oh my God. I think society teaches us that that's what it's about. I mean, and the guy was quite right. I mean, that's how it happens in corporate world. But I and say, by 65 years old, you're at your wisest, and therefore you're at the point when you're going to give your best to the world and to society.
Yeah.
And so I very much believe in that,
Yeah.
which is why I love this podcast you have,
I
because
know.
it really is so important what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited about it, and I'm excited to have you as one of our first guests because you've got some great mindset shifts for people, I think. And so let's talk about like, it sounds like you've had a great attitude about aging or, in contribution and how you live your whole life. But if you could go back and tell your younger self something, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I wrote down, because you gave me these questions, great idea, to give questions beforehand. I just wrote down, live more boldly. Now, I think I've lived pretty boldly anyway, but I think I wish maybe my younger self would have lived more boldly earlier, because
Yeah.
I think that that's really kind of what life's about, in the sense, for me anyway, it is actually becoming who you are, and you don't discover all the possibilities that could open up for you if you don't take chances and live boldly. So that's what I'd say to my young self.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And it's interesting because I think that is something that I hear often is that, people wish they would have taken bigger risks, but at the time it feels scary, right? It's
Well, I think that's true, and I think that's why I love my topic. I mean, synchronicity is about somewhere, somehow, things come out of the blue to give you answers to issues in your life. And I think, whatever you think that is, and I think there's some spirituality in that. Some people say that synchronicity is like a nudge from the universe. So, in terms of people not living their best lives, because so many of us can either say yes to things that come our way. Sorry, I'm losing my voice here. I'll take some more. It's 11:30 at night in Singapore.
Yes, I know. Thank you for
I've had
that.
a busy day teaching. So things come to you and you feel, yeah, I should take that because that's what I've always wanted to do. And then they say, well, yeah, but I've got this responsibility and this responsibility. Nothing wrong with responsibilities. But I think that opportunities come to people and they often turn them down. And so I'm just remembering now, because this is live and things are occurring to me. What I always said was, I don't want to get to my deathbed with serious regrets about things I didn't do. And I said, I'm going to try and let that guide me. Actually, I just remembered that. I'd forgotten that, Andrea. And so my message to people is, don't take crazy risks that put yourself and other people, out of safety. But when these little things come your way in your life to say, this is the way for you, or this is the thing to do, take them, because otherwise you'll regret them later on in your life.
Yep, that is so true. So true. So as you were, you shared a little bit about the obstacles with getting your PhD, but as you were working on it, what other unexpected obstacles came up that that caused you to maybe wonder if this was still going to happen? I don't know if you just always knew it was going to happen no matter what, or what other obstacles came up? Now you were still in Singapore when you were doing this PhD, even though was it remote or?
No, Singapore's my home for 30 years,
Yes.
and
Yes.
probably it'll be the place where I end my life. Who
Mhm.
knows? But Singapore is home. Um, and so, no, I traveled to my first university, which was in the UK, and then some of my second university where I did the full PhD. First university, I did master's. Second university, I did the full PhD. That was more online,
Okay.
and basically it depended on my relationship with my supervisor. So all of that was online. The biggest challenge, as I said, was my first university. For various reasons, it didn't work out, and I'm thinking, oh my God, my dream has gone. And I said, I never doubted it for one moment. I thought, well, okay, so kind of always believing that whatever you need, if you're on the right path, whatever you need will just turn up. And I never for once thought about, because I could have said, as some of my friends were saying, well, it didn't work out and you now are 67, so maybe it's not meant to work out. Why don't you just give up this crazy dream and just live a normal life type of thing? Now, that thinking just never crossed my mind.
Hmm.
When I left the first university, great university, but it wasn't where I wanted to be, came to the next university, that really, got me going. And I never doubted that I would actually finish up the degree, the PhD, and things just fell into place. So I guess, I'm kind of an optimist, Andrea. I don't think I'm an optimist that doesn't see the difficulties, because in my team development stuff, I help people understand their personal style. So I'm an optimist, but I look, when you're on a path that this is what I'm meant to be doing, and what I'm doing is of benefit to the world, age doesn't really come into it for me. So maybe I was born with that mindset. I don't know. I think maybe I got some of that from my mum and dad,
Mm,
who were very positive, optimistic people. But
mm,
I racked my brain when you showed me this question. I'm thinking, no, the only issue I had was switching university, and
right.
that just seemed to happen out of the blue easily.
So it happened, but maybe just, obviously just a little later than you planned, right? You just kept going.
Yeah, yeah,
Took a little longer.
yeah. I was on the path of my dream. Nothing's going to stop me doing this, no matter how old I am. I often say to myself, one day I'll grow up, uh, but I
Oh, I
hope
hope
not
not.
too soon. And so, I mean, I don't know whether it's because I say it that it becomes true. I sometimes feel like I'm 16 years old inside. And I look at people who are, I'm 72, 73 in December. When I was a kid, if you were 50 years old, you were already over the hill.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I really don't feel like that.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just living the life I'm supposed to live, and age doesn't really come into it,
Yeah. That's great. That's great.
if that
So
makes sense.
you mentioned your parents. Who else have been some of your greatest influencers and teachers, and what have you learned from them along the way?
I think that I have to say David Cooperrider, the man who I'm sure many of your audience will know. He is the foremost guy when it comes to appreciative inquiry. He invented appreciative inquiry, which is actually all about looking at the positive side in terms of what you want to do. Appreciate who you are and what you can do, and don't take no for an answer. So he was. On why I'm mentioning him, there are probably many others, Andrea. In my first university, they had a fairly conservative view about doing a PhD, which was about looking at what other people had done and building on their work. Now, there weren't many people who had actually studied synchronicity, but when I started working with David, David said to me, yes, by all means, look at other people, but I want to inspire the poet in you. And I would like you, at the end of this PhD, to look on yourself as one of the foremost thought leaders on synchronicity. He there shifted my mindset about what a PhD should do. A PhD, when you do it, and I encourage people to wait later in their life to do a PhD on a topic that they're really interested in, it can be done very conservatively in the sense of, again, you just build on other people's research and take it a little bit further. Whereas David said, dream big. You're bringing something to the world which the world needs. And you can be, you know, an important thought leader in that area. And I hadn't thought that. So
Mm.
David, I can't thank David enough in terms of the inspiration he gave me to live a bigger life and not a smaller life.
That is wonderful. Live a bigger life. I love that all through your life, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's not just up to 20 and 30-year-olds to live a big life. We can we, we can live a big life and that can shift. So tell me a little bit about what you're planning on doing with this PhD. I know you've spoken, what was kind of your vision for what that would then launch for you?
I always want in my work to focus on things that help organizations, but also help individuals. Um, and so my vision always was when I found out that this thing called synchronicity happens to many people, but they don't talk about it. Or they may talk about it quietly at parties with friends, but it's not central. And that's because the world is governed by the mindset of Newtonian physics, which says we are separate from each other. We're not connected. And the world is a great machine which you can take apart, and it's all mechanical and linear and logical. Quantum physics came along 100 years ago and said, we are vibrating balls of energy that are connected with each other. So straight away, that just got me excited in the sense of, I think one of my missions in life is to introduce leaders to the fact that they can get free of all of that stuff. And a quick story, Andrea, that came to me in a synchronicity. I was in a shopping mall in Singapore having a coffee with my financial manager. And I was chatting to him saying, last week was my 66th birthday. And I had a dream last night about being a freedom fighter. So remember, 66, freedom fighter. I looked to my left, and walking through the shopping mall was a man with a t-shirt saying 66 freedom fighter.
That's really wild.
And I took a photograph, so because I knew people wouldn't believe me. So synchronicity happens where a thought in your own self manifests, and what could be more powerful? And so what the synchronicity was that now it focuses on age. It gets us clear on age. I was 66, and I just submitted my dissertation. Now 66, 6 in Chinese is luck. So
Yeah.
66 is luck. So I reckon that meant that what I was about was going to actually be successful in my dissertation. Freedom fighter took a little bit longer as to what it meant. And this is what we do with synchronicity. When things come, why did that happen? How did that happen? I realized that what I'm about, and this is answering your question, is a long way around to answer your question about mission. But what I realize is that I'm a freedom fighter to help remove the blocks that stop people in the workplace living their full life, in the sense of being able to talk about this stuff that nobody talks about, which is actually bringing the spiritual and the divine into the workplace. It's there already, but people don't talk about it because they're afraid of what people might think. So when I say I'm a rebel with a cause, I feel like I'm a freedom fighter helping people really uncover their own reluctance and fear of really showing their true selves. So
Yeah.
I literally on a mission. I launched the book, published already, 9 Keys of Synchronicity, as you know already. 9 Keys of
Yeah.
Synchronicity is published
Nice.
already. I'm launching it in December, but I'm launching the masterclass in December. And I'm getting a great deal of interest from North America. So I'm now, for the next however long God gives me, I'm now traveling the world, sharing this story of live your fullest life, because the universe is there to help you with these out of the blue synchronicities that if you open your heart and mind to them, let them in, you live more miraculously.
That's awesome. That's
So that's my
awesome.
mission statement.
That is a beautiful mission. I can see why it keeps you going and kind of has so much excitement around it, because it's definitely a needed message out there for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
So
Yeah.
that's and that all comes in a situation where I don't really think about the age. I mean, I mention it because people will, wonder why I'm doing this where I am at the moment. Um, and it really it comes back to this thing, which is why I think your Late Starters Club is fantastic, Andrea, because it brings this notion that when we're in our 60s and 70s, we're at our wisest. And therefore, how are we going to spend this wisdom to be a benefit to other people?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. And I love it. Love it. So there was I forgot to ask if you just told us a great story about how, kind of a pivotal moment in realizing, uh, what this was all about for you, what this purpose was. Is there something else that you were going to share around,
Yes, yes.
about
I'm when I'm in these, you're a great interviewer, Andrea, because you're keeping the thing flowing, and When I do podcasts, I prepare a little bit, obviously, but I'm
Mhm.
very much open to what happens. And yes, there's a story I want to share, which is a synchronicity story, which is one of the most amazing synchronicity stories. So um, I used to appear on Singapore TV in a program at 7 in the morning called Views on the News. And so they brought us in at 6 in the morning to give us the stories for that day. And so then we'd be live at 7 o'clock on TV, giving our views. Like they'd say to me, "So, Philip, who's a greater threat to world peace, Obama or Putin?" I literally had that question happening. Now, one day, got up at 5 in the morning, ready to go to the TV show. And I looked down at my phone, and there on my phone, it says, "Message from your father." And I looked twice because my father had died a year before. And it was a message from a professional psychic, good friend of mine in the States, who said, "Phil, your dad's been bothering me to get a message to you." And I read this email, and she actually literally gave the words that she downloaded as a psychic that my dad had said. "Son, I'm doing well. I'm okay where I am. We do a lot of dancing where I am, and I'm very happy. I like the work you're doing on the television box. You're going to be doing more of this." Now, I'm about to appear on TV. Television box was our parents' way of talking about TV. They didn't call it TV, they called it the television box because it was a box. So that authenticated to me that this was a genuine message from Dad. Now, it still amazes me as I tell this story, and at the time as well, because think about it. I'm about to appear on TV. My dad, who'd passed away a year before, knew exactly what I was about to do, and somehow the divine had arranged it so that I get that message an hour before I'm about to go on TV. So it kind of says, don't worry about death. Your loved ones go on, but they are still in contact with you. Somehow they can still see you. And it gave me such a sense of peace and reassurance, and still does, in the sense of, death is just a word, because actually your loved ones pass to another domain, but somehow they still know and can understand what it is that you are doing. So that's the story that somehow, there are many stories I could have told, but that's the story that I think somehow somebody in your audience needs to hear that story.
I have got goosebumps. That is amazing because, clearly knowing that language, television box, most people don't call it something like that.
And so
And
I'm also guided to say something. Sorry, Andrea.
no.
There is somebody in your audience who's grieving over a loved one. I can feel that.
Mm.
And I just want to say grieving is painful, and there's no way around it. But I'd like to just say, in the bigger perspective, they just moved to another realm where somehow that story tells me they're still in touch with you.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I love all the dancing. I mean, I am a big
Yeah,
fan. I'm I'm ready. I love dancing. So there we go. I'm glad to hear about
yeah,
that.
yeah. It was so that was the story that kind of, and there are many others I could have shared, obviously, but
Yeah, that
the story
that is
that
just
was the name.
wonderful. Wow, that is just yeah, definitely gives me chills for sure. What a great way to go into that interview with the on TV for sure. Perfect
Yeah,
timing.
yeah.
So great. So we're just about to wrap it up. I would love to hear one of your favorite quotes. I love quotes and I love to hear new quotes. I love quotes that inspire people who are doing amazing things such as yourself. So I would love to hear your one of your favorite quotes.
So synchronicity, out of the blue events suddenly coming your way that help you with issues that you are facing. And so my favorite quote Well, can I do two quotes?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And these are on the front of my book, and they are original quotes, which I want to share. The first one is, open the doors to possibilities that are all around you, hidden in plain view. Open the door to possibilities that are all around you, hidden in plain view. We often, when we're looking for solutions, go all over the place, and actually they're in front of us. That's the first quote. And then the second quote, why I believe synchronicity is so important, because behind every synchronicity is a miracle waiting to happen. So in your day, when you are prompted, if you meet somebody or your heart tells you go this way, not this way, don't ignore it, because that's a synchronicity knocking at your door. And behind that synchronicity is a miracle that's going to open its way for you to lead that sort of life that you've been longing to lead.
That's beautiful. And this is the message I needed to hear today. So thank you so much for sharing that with me, with the listeners. I am so excited to reconnect with you after so many years, and I love the work you're doing and the inspiration you are giving to the world, really. So
Well,
thank you.
listen, I enjoyed it so much, Andrea, because you're a great interviewer. This clearly, Late Starters Club is inspirational in the name itself.
Mm.
And this is going to help so many people. So if I've played some little part in doing that, it's because you started this club, and it's because you set an atmosphere where I felt just very, very comfortable. It's like I'm talking to an old friend, which I am.
Yeah.
But great style of interviewing, Andrea, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Dr. Phil, tell us where people can find you. We will have all these links in the comments, but I'd love to have you just share.
Very, very simple. www.philipmerry.com. You can see my name here, but it's Philip with one L. philipmerry.com. That's my website. You'll see the synchronicity book there and all the other work that I do. And by the way, if any of your listeners have synchronicity stories they want to share with me, please do so. I'm very happy to be in touch with people and talk to them if they're interested about what their synchronicities mean.
Yeah, that's so great. Thank you again, Dr. Phil, and thank you, listeners. And hopefully, this was as inspirational as it was to you as it was to me. So, thank you.
To me, thank you.
Hope that was helpful, and make sure you grab the free guide, Top Tools for Late Starters, on the website at latestartersclub.com. And let's turn dreaming into doing.